Hey friends, welcome to the Tennis and Bagels podcast. Joining me today is my good friend Owen Lewis. We are here to recap Rome, talk about Roland Garros, talk about our favorites to do well there, dark horses, and much more, and everything else going on in the tennis world. So, how are you doing today, Owen?
I'm doing well. Rome was a lot of fun, so it should be fun to get into it.
Yeah, should be great fun. Andre can't make it today. He's been busy with work, but so it'll just be the two of us, and he'll be joining us on the next one. But I guess we can start with the WTA side on the for Rome. Iga Swiatek just continues to dominate the tour. Quite frankly,
Yeah.
she's really separating herself by a huge margin now, and she's won the last five tournaments, 28 consecutive matches in a row, and dropped just 21 games en route to win the Rome title. And once again, just ruthlessly destroying her opponents, but also finding gears when she most needs to, and coming through even without playing some of her best tennis. That was particularly true against Azarenka and Andreescu as well, where she had close first sets and she wasn't serving her best, but yet just found a way and got through with her superior return games and just incredible shot making and resilience, and then just rolled through the second set. So, what do you kind of make of Swiatek and where she's at right now?
Oh, I mean, couldn't be better. I wrote something on her a couple of days ago where, and at this point, her winning streak was 27 matches because it was before the final. And I calculated in this winning streak, she's losing an average of 5.4 games a match. So depending on how you break that down, that's like a 6-2, 6-3 win or a 7-5, 6-0 win or something like that. That's so dominant. Like, she's not getting pushed by anyone. And I think a good example is that match with Azarenka. Like, everyone was saying how intense it was and how this first set was really tight. And I think Swiatek almost went down a double break. Is that right? Or she did go down a double break?
She went down 3-love. So
right. But I was looking at the stats, and Azarenka only held serve once the entire match because Swiatek was constantly breaking her. And so if that's now the standard for is she being pushed, I would say like she's in a pretty great position. I mean, Roland Garros is different, like majors are different. And some people are saying like, maybe she'll lose to someone. And at the Australian Open, she did lose, but that was such a long time ago. She's been so dominant for such a long time at this point. So I'm like, I can't imagine someone taking her out at this point because the last time she felt fallible seems like it was in a different universe at this point. That's how long this winning streak has been going on.
yeah, well said. And like the phrase I think that comes to my mind is like in the zone.
Yeah.
And where in the zone, you're thinking so much more clearly under pressure, and you're just because you feel invincible. Like you can't lose, right? And it just feels like she's got so much confidence behind her that like how do you stop her?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, in the final against Jabeur, who played really well for a lot of it, you could see Swiatek was trying to do that thing where she just destroys her opponents in the second set and bagels them, and we saw that with Andreescu. And Jabeur actually made a fantastic push from 4-0 down. She got one break back, and then she went up low 40 at 2-4, had 4 break points in total in a really epic game. And Swiatek just kind of raised her level as if out of nowhere, like both on offense and defense, made some ridiculous gets and held serve. And the thing was, like, it was amazing, but it wasn't surprising because she's done so well for such a long time now that it's almost expected. And I think that puts a lot of pressure on her, which is difficult. But as a fan, it's incredible to watch because she's doing these otherworldly things as if they're normal, which no one else on tour is doing right now.
Yeah. And of course, Jabeur is a player who beat her twice last year, once on grass and once at Wimbledon and then once in Cincinnati on the hard courts. So for her to, like you said, the standard is it's just getting lower and lower for pushing Swiatek, right? Because 4-love from 4-love to 2-4-love 40, and you're just like, I mean, Jabeur played amazing. You're right, like for those 3 games, and Swiatek just has this other gear, I think, on the forehand now, which I don't think she had last year in terms of like just ruthless aggression and just taking control of points. She has this ability where she can just, I mean, she hits the ball harder than anyone and cleaner than anyone, and off both wings. And she's, I don't want to like just run out of superlatives and just put so much hype, but like the way she's almost transcending the way players move on the court, like it's just the way she's sliding in the corners and just getting around the ball with such great footwork. It's just like, how is she chasing down a lot of these shots and she's still in such great balance at position, like more than half the time. It's just otherworldly.
The way she slides into the backhand is ridiculous. Like some of those slides, I swear, have to be like 10 meters long. It's insane. And I think in the fourth break point in that 4-2 game, one of the break points, she had a couple epic gets where she was totally on the run and 2 or 3 times got the ball back within a few feet of the baseline and reset the point. And like to do that on a pressured point multiple times, it's not an accident at this point. It's the opposite of an accident. It feels like she's unlocked a level of play and kind of a level of consistency and balance in her game that no one can match. And so from that standpoint, like it's not a surprise at all that no one can beat her. Like no one can get close because they can't do everything at the level she's doing them at.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of times she just finds the pattern that she wants is just like, she plays the numbers game so well. Like she knows, okay, I can hit a really good kick serve, second serve to my opponent's backhand, and I can just get the forehand that I want. And then just take control of the rally. And then if I can't get forehands, no problem. My backhand is superior to yours as well. And so I can just, just change directions efficiently. Like it's just, and then the way she's like just the self-belief that she has, on the court, and the way she's finishing off these matches. And then, you just see her like run and get her watch and celebrate. And it's just like, she's been doing this routine like over and over and over. And it's just, it must be like so much muscle memory. And it's just, you can't, like, it's going to take something significantly for someone to beat her. It's either going to take like just an Ostapenko or Danielle Collins like performance where she just gets blown off the court and just doesn't have, just, I guess, wakes up on the wrong side of the bed and just doesn't quite have the, just doesn't quite have it in her legs, or just doesn't quite feel the ball so well that day, and she can't come back from left 3 down like she could against Azarenka when she has more time.
Yeah, I kind of lean towards it's going to require her going off the boil entirely for someone to beat her, because we look back to those Collins and Ostapenko matches, and they did play really well. But I think the fact of the matter is that Swiatek was not playing nearly as well then as she is now. Like I think if you look at how she played against Collins to how she played against Jabeur in the Rome final, it's almost an unrecognizable difference. Like she's improved so quickly in such a short time, and it's been like a sustained improvement. Like she's been playing this well basically since the start of her winning streak. And so like it's easy to say, yeah, someone could redline and take her out, but the fact is like players have had 28 chances to do that now and it hasn't happened. Like she's too good for all of them. And so I lean towards like she's really going to have to be off just for her opponents to have a chance.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we saw her win Rome last year and kind of cruised through the Roland Garros draw, and she beat Kostyuk, I think, in the 4th round, and then she lost to Sakari like 4-4.
Yeah,
and that was in the quarters. And I don't remember that match so well, but is it correct that she was struggling a little bit with like a leg injury or some kind of injury was bothering her?
I think fatigue had something to do with it, because she was playing doubles as well with Bethany Maddox-Sands, and they and that was going on at the same time, and she had played a lot of tennis that year, and I think she said it kind of caught up to her in the quarterfinal, if I'm remembering right. It definitely didn't seem like she went down with her best stuff by any means, which I think is kind of consistent with what we're seeing now. Like I can't imagine a scenario where she would go down with her best stuff, because her best stuff is way better than anyone else's at the moment.
For sure, yeah. And of course, that's not to say Sakari didn't put up a absolutely brilliant performance, because she was a point away from the final as well. But in terms of the other players who did well this week, obviously the most impressive for me was Jabeur backing up her Madrid title and getting to the final, and especially the way she won her semifinal and her quarterfinal against Maria Sakkari, who obviously is quite a good top 5 player now, and has really established herself and consistently gets to semis and finals. And it's only won 1 title, but extremely consistent. And it looked like Jabeur was out of this one, and she was completely out of gas. And Sakkari served for the match at 6-1, 5-2 double break and 30 love.
Yep.
So
I think we'll get to Sakkari, but I think that's the thing that impresses me the most about Jabeur, is that Madrid title was tough physically. And like you were saying, I mean, everyone said she was out of gas in the middle of the Sakkari match. And yeah, like Sakkari choked, but it like somehow Jabeur had the reserves to get through that match, play a long 3-setter in the next round, and she didn't roll over against Swiatek in the final. Like I'm amazed at how she had the fitness to do that, because I think a lot of players win a tournament and then they'll pull out of the next one, or they'll lose early, or they'll like not play to protect their fitness, which is what Carlos Alcaraz is doing. So yeah, I mean, the fact that she had all this tennis in her is amazing, and I do think like right now she is the second favorite for Roland Garros. Like her form has been awesome.
Yeah. What I like about her is that she has many different gears she can go into, and if she's just not feeling it in one set, she's like, okay, it's fine, I can let that set go and just kind of preserve energy and just kind of, I mean, not really tank, but just kind of just get your head right for the next set, and if you happen to come back in the set, great. If not, then I'll just let it go. And she's done that many times, and I think it's really kind of it's really kind of put a dent in the way her opponents think as well, because it's kind of like, okay, this you have this vast difference between level all of a sudden,
right,
between the beginning of the third and the way she kind of let me win that second set, and then she sort of starts really strong, and then she's able to keep it going, and she has so many different ways she can beat you, Jabeur, right? She can just beat you with her power off the ground, with just unleashing and unloading and on her backhands and forehands. She can come up with the most stunning drop shots, great disguise. Obviously, she has a great slice. She can serve really well as well in the corners. It's almost like an Ash Barty type game, but a little bit different in the sense like she has a better topspin backhand than Barty has.
Yeah.
And the way she constructs points is not quite as clear sometimes as Barty, but you get the feeling now that she's really poised and hungry to make a push into the top 5, and she really wants to win a major and do all of these things for Arab tennis and African tennis, and it's just it's really quite good to see.
Yeah, I mean, she can hurt you from anywhere on the court at any moment. Like she's got almost like a very freewheeling game. Like when she's on, it looks completely natural. It doesn't look like she's trying at all, and it just completely bamboozles her opponents. And I think that point you made about, I think a good term for it is like strategic tanking almost. Like when like she completely recognizes that you don't have to play every point really hard. Like some points are not that important, some sets are not that important. Like as long as you win, it doesn't matter. And she does such a great job of that. Like right before this, actually, I was watching the Djokovic Murray semifinal from the 2012 Australian Open, and it was interesting because towards the end of the second set and like halfway into the third, all the commentators are talking about is how tired Djokovic looks. And I'm like, but the thing is, like, the match is close. Like, he was still sticking right with Murray. And so, and I feel like that's almost something she does. Like, she can, like, even when she's not ahead or when she's not winning points constantly, she's always dangerous just because she can take it up a notch at any moment. And she knows when to snap back into things when the points get big.
For sure. Yeah. I like the term strategic tanking. That's a good phrase.
I think players should do it more generally. I mean, Djokovic does it, but like I feel like it's almost a taboo, like not to play every point like it's your last. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not a good plan, because if you don't want to play match point the same way you play a point at like 40 love in the first game of the match, like you want to be playing match point harder. And so I think budgeting your energy so that you can optimize that is completely smart. But I don't think players do it that much.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're really confident and you sort of have so much experience to like really rely on and be like, okay, I don't have to try it so hard on this point. I can maximize my energy reserves and just just let some points go. I think Federer does it. I think Djokovic has done it quite a bit in his career. It's not something in Nadal's DNA, that's for sure. But
right. And like what he does is great, but I don't think that should create an expectation that like everyone, like if your opponent is serving at 40 love, like you should chase down that draw shot. Like why? It makes no sense. Like even if you get there and you win the point, you burned energy in a game that you're still not going to win. So yeah, I mean, and as a fan, like it's not fun to watch players like not giving their best on every point, but it's totally smart. And I don't even think Jabeur necessarily does it as much as several other players, but I think she really knows how to employ that tactic when it's smart for her, which is awesome.
Yeah, for sure. She definitely employed it against Kazakina in the semifinals. 6-4, 1-6, 7-5. And that third set really could have gone either way, but with the confidence she had, she just managed to pull through in the tight moments. Mm-hmm. But I guess some of the other players who did well, I mean, it's nice to see two players really come to mind, and that's Andreescu winning 5 matches over the course of Madrid and Rome. Mm-hmm. She got 3 really good wins here. Obviously, one was a retirement against Raducanu, who wasn't at her best since Madrid physically. And then you have who else did she beat in this tournament? She beat someone after that, and then she beat Petra Martic.
Andreescu, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So she beat Martic for that. Then walkover against Raducanu, and then
Prazeres Diaz. Yeah, okay. I actually didn't watch this match, but it seems like it was a pretty close 2-setter. Mm-hmm. And then she beat and then she had the good win over Martic. So
right. I mean, I think the first set against Swiatek is the most impressive part of all of it. Like that's the most anyone's pushed Swiatek in an individual set in a long time. It was a great set. Mm-hmm. I mean, Andreescu broke her 3 times. And the scoreline towards the end is not great. According to Google scores, Andreescu won less than half of points on her serve in general, first and second. And that's a problem. But I think the fact that she still has this level, even if just for 1 set, it's more than most people on the WTA can say. Even a lot of players ranked ahead of her.
Yeah, just won 9 out of the 35 points played in the second set, and looks like the tiebreak was pretty one-sided. But I don't think that's too much of a concern right now, because she's lacking so much match play and so much time off the tour. So it's going to take her a while to sort of get into top gear, especially when she's playing these top 10 opponents right away.
Yeah, and also
a lot of success against.
Swiatek has also been doing this to so many players. And I mean, I watched that second set. It wasn't like Andreescu imploded. Like, she still made balls. She didn't beat herself. It was just that Swiatek went into that destruction mode and completely stifled her in every way possible. I mean, it was brutal, but it wasn't like Andreescu did a lot wrong. And against 99% of opponents, that's not going to be a problem.
Yeah, well said. And I mean, I guess Jessica Pegula has been quite consistent. She's number 5 in the race. She's finalist in Madrid and semifinalist in Miami. Went to the quarters at the Australian Open, and then backed up her run here and won a couple of matches and then lost to Sabalenka. Good to see Sabalenka also have a bit of a resurgence.
Yeah, and I think Amanda Anisimova has been doing really well. I mean, the loss to Sabalenka in the quarters from a setup is tough, but I mean, what she did at the Australian Open and beating defending champion Naomi Osaka from match point down is astonishing. I think her easy power goes beyond that of anyone else on tour, except maybe Ostapenko. So I think like she's one of the very few who, like, if on the day she peaked and made every single ball, could put Swiatek in some trouble. I think her game is so bruising and damaging when it's on. Just the weight of shot she has on every ball is incredible. So I hope she has a good run at Roland Garros, because her matches are really fun. Yeah, for sure. Her ball striking on both the backhand and forehand is just really, really pure, and it's like insane. Extremely technically strong. And then she can hit well in the corners too. I don't think she moves as well as some of the other best players in the world, but when she's in position, I mean, my God, she can beat anyone on her day. I remember watching her play for the first time in 2018 at Indian Wells, and this is when Petra Kvitova was more consistent and quite a dangerous force and still a top 5 player. And she beat Petra Kvitova at her own game. It was just and she was 16 years old at the time. That is wild. Yeah, and especially the way she was just knocking the cover off of her cross-court backhand. Yeah, and just putting Petra Kvitova on the back foot. I remember some of the points from the end of that match against Osaka, and there were a few where they were like trading forehands, and 1 or 2 times Osaka hit a great forehand, but it would hang up for like a fraction of a second, and it's like Anisimova kind of swings almost gently, and the ball explodes through the air like it was shot from a cannon. And it's like as soon as Osaka hit that shot where the quality was like 1% lower than it needed to be, she knew that the ball was going to come flying past her. That's extremely dangerous. So yeah, again, I hope I think she can definitely mix it up at Roland Garros.
For sure, yeah. She did well. She got to the quarters. Was a setup on Sabalenka. Sabalenka, she had a 4-match win streak against. She was 4-0 in their head-to-head. So
yeah, I mean, she beat Collins
Sabalenka
6-2, 6-2, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess Andreescu and Anisimova are two really good dark horses. I don't think anyone wants to see them in their section.
Definitely not. I wanted to talk to you a bit about Barbara Krejcikova, who's the defending champion at Roland Garros in both singles and doubles, but has been injured for a while now. She hasn't officially pulled out of Roland Garros, but I think a lot of people are kind of doubtful that she will play. What are your thoughts on that? Like, how do you think it would affect the tournament if she's not present? And if she does play, do you think she'd be able to recover form fast enough to become a factor?
Yeah, I certainly have my doubts. I certainly, if I were to guess, I don't think she would play. But then again, the draw is about to come out, and it's quite possible maybe she just sees this as her return to the tour and just kind of has very, very low expectations. Obviously, with the pressure of being the defending champion, and with how strong and deep the women's tour is, and she's just not had any matches pretty much since the Middle East or since February. And been sidelined with an elbow injury, pulled out of Indian Wells, pulled out of Miami, pulled out of all the clay court events. And, that's not something you want to see, obviously, because Krejcikova has been a really consistent presence in the top 5 since she won Roland Garros last year, and she kept building on that form, lost to Barty at Wimbledon, lost to Sabalenka in the quarters at the US Open, went deep in almost pretty much, went deep in the mixed and won doubles at the Olympics. Like, she has all these match wins and all these great victories and just so much confidence. And then she just, I think even quarters at the Australian Open. So, very, very consistent. And you can't say that about a lot of players right now in the WTA with how deep it is. Mm-hmm. So my expectations for her are extremely low. And I think I don't expect her to go in the second week if she did play.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. I hope she's back at least by the end of the year, because like you said, having her as a consistent presence at every tournament was a lot of fun.
So it should be interesting to see how the draw unfolds, and we'll see when the draw comes out later this week. But why don't we go ahead and talk about the ATP side? And
so we have a list here, but before we get to the order, I was hoping first we could talk about the return of the clay goat, Daniil Medvedev. He played his first match of the clay season today, lost to Richard Gasquet. But like Daniil Medvedev, god of clay, he's back. What did you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Daniil Medvedev did wonders for our podcast last year.
Oh, I missed that this year, I'll tell you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was one of our most listened to episodes about Medvedev and his gardening and his antics in Rome, and obviously, going through a bit of the complaining phase during his before the French Open, and obviously he hadn't played in a while. He'd gotten COVID. He's not obviously clay is absolutely not his favorite surface. He's made that clear a million times. but I mean, I watched a little bit of his match today against Gasquet, and I thought he was quite rusty. Wasn't feeling the ball quite as well. Gasquet was playing some of the best tennis I've seen him play in years. Mm-hmm. So it was a really bad combination for Medvedev across the other side of the net, and he was just chiding himself quite a bit. Wasn't getting to balls like he usually does, and Gasquet was challenging his patience, and it just wasn't quite there. His trademark shot tolerance and consistency from the baseline, which works well even on the clay. Yeah. And then obviously he was down a set in a break, and he was up 2-1 in the first set, and then he lost 7 games in a row, and then he came back. It was not looking good there for a while. I was like, he's gonna lose 2-2. Like, this is, he better come up with something really good here. And I did kind of get the feeling that if he won that tiebreak, I think that would have really swung the match, and he would have had all the momentum on his side. And Gasquet was already starting to get a bit tired. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, then unfortunately he finished the match on a double fault. Obviously, he did well to get the break back. The second set was a bit more competitive, but it would have been nice for him to get a couple more matches here. But I think even regardless, he'll want to defend his quarterfinal at Roland Garros, obviously, and he'll, maybe he can use the best of 5 set experience that he has now to his advantage.
Right.
And maybe just grind through the first couple of rounds and then see what happens.
Well, no matter what, if he's down match point, he needs to hit a better underhand serve than he did last year. But yeah, I don't have much to add. I caught the end of the second set. I actually thought he looked pretty decent. I think best of 5 will help him. Like, I feel like, he's the number 2 seed, so he's going to get a nice draw. A moment for surface-specific rankings. I think we could avoid situations like this. Nadal, Djokovic, Alcaraz, and Tsitsipas could all be on the same half of the draw. Like, think about how ridiculous that is. But yeah, I think, and this also kind of makes me wish that Swiatek could play best of 5, because, she has all these wins, and she's the overwhelming favorite, but there's still the possibility of, like, if for as much as an hour she's off or someone else is on, it could all go away like that. And, Medvedev, who comparatively sucks on clay, has that extra hour to figure things out. So again, like, best of 5. But yeah, I think for some reason, I think he'll win a few rounds, which I did not think was going to happen last year.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of strange in a way. We haven't seen him play a full clay court season. Like, we've just been robbed of that for years now because,
right.
Last year he didn't play in the beginning, and then the year before that we didn't really have a clay season.
Yeah,
because 2020, and then
last year didn't he play more matches at Roland Garros than he did in all the other clay court tournaments combined?
Yeah, I think he went into Roland Garros playing in just 3 matches, and he won 1.
Right. Yeah, he makes projections tough. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Talking about favorites, Djokovic has just won Rome for the 6th time. I think most people are saying he's the Roland Garros favorite. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I think I agree, but for some reason when people were saying that, it just felt a little bit off to me, and I wanted to think about why that was. I think part of it is that it seems like Nadal is going to play, but he's not physically fit, so it seems like he'll be less of a factor. But I also think Alcaraz might still be in better form. Like, I feel like what Alcaraz did in Madrid might have been more impressive than what Djokovic did in Rome, even though Djokovic did find that God mode in patches. It wasn't like he was in God mode the entire time. And I don't know. I wonder if Alcaraz could beat him if they play. And I know Djokovic has the best of 5 experience in the history of doing really well at Roland Garros, but that's a match I want to see. Like, I don't think it's easy to pick in the slightest.
Yeah, I agree. Alcaraz just blew everyone's mind away what he did in Madrid, obviously beating Nadal and Djokovic and Zverev back to back to back. And we hadn't seen, we so far, because he lost early in Monte Carlo and he won Barcelona, we were kind of waiting to see what the real pecking order was. And then, Djokovic was, I would say this is the best tennis he's played like all year, and by far, and some of maybe one of his best runs to the Rome title since 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I think 2011 was the most impressive by far. But even here, I guess the way he beat Felix, who I thought played the best match I've ever seen him play on clay, and that was the best match Djokovic had played up until that point, all things considered. And then the straight set win over Casper Ruud, and then the way he came back from a breakdown and bageled Tsitsipas. Obviously, we'll get to the final later, but it was he couldn't have asked for a better run and a better way to put himself in at least in the top 2, if not the best, going into Roland Garros. It's kind of an interesting discussion. Like, I same thing as you. Like, I kind of put him at number 1, just by a slim margin, but that's purely all just because of all the years of experience and the RG record and his consistency there, and best of 5, and there's still that little bit of unknown. Obviously, with Madrid playing differently than Rome, and Alcaraz, got a really good version of Djokovic, I'd say, in Madrid. He was playing really well, but I think he's even in better shape now. And obviously, best of 5 is going to be a whole nother animal. So we'll see. We'll see if they do happen to play in the quarters or semis or wherever that is. They may be in the final or.
Yeah,
I think most of the betting favorites have either have them tied or they have Djokovic slight favorite.
Right, but it is pretty close. I'm curious to see what that Madrid match ends up telling us, because I think I mean, most people said, yeah, Djokovic was pretty good, but he wasn't at his best. And I felt like the thing that people weren't really saying was that, like, Alcaraz wasn't really either. Like, in the first set, I thought he was terrible for most of it, to be completely honest. Like, on the return, he lost 21 points in a row. And it wasn't like Djokovic was completely treeing. Like, I know he's got a tricky serve to read, but this was on clay. Alcaraz is a great returner, and he was not even winning a point on the return of serve. And he still managed to get to a tiebreak, and he only lost that tiebreak 7-5. So I totally agree that Djokovic can play better, but I also thought that Alcaraz could play better. And so I feel like that was definitely a preview of what we might get if they play in best of 5. But I think on both sides, it's going to require a monumental effort to win that match. And I mean, Djokovic having to chase down those drop shots for 5 sets in 4 hours, like, I don't think that's going to be easy at all.
Yeah, and then one other thing about Djokovic is, he did get tied a couple of times. Obviously, he got tied twice against Felix. He was serving for the set,
right?
Serving for both the first set and the second set, and he lost his serve there. I don't think it's anything crazy. Just a couple of points. Got tight, which happens. He got tight in the towards the end of the match against Tsitsipas. Tsitsipas made 3 backhand errors in the tiebreak, which quite frankly is a little unacceptable on his part. But
right. Well, I mean, Federer made 4 in one of those 2019 tiebreaks, so he's not alone.
Yeah, I mean, Djokovic can do that too in tiebreaks, but he was quite tight. He wasn't hitting his second serve. He was hitting his second serve quite slow. He was kind of pushing his backhand, kind of waiting for the right ball, and he does that so well in the tiebreaks. He just goes in this lockdown cannot miss mode, and that's why he won. I think he was 15-2 in tiebreaks in 2019, and he's really quite found that formula.
Yeah, I mean, Djokovic understands a thing about tiebreaks that a lot of players do not get, which is that the most important thing is not making errors. Like, you can blast winners, like, that's great, but more often you're going to lose a tiebreak because you made errors than because you did a good job of, like, keeping the ball between the lines, even if you weren't that aggressive. Like, I think I can probably count on the fingers of one hand the times I remember, like, someone lost a tiebreak because they weren't aggressive enough. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of the time, one player is going to go for it. And if you're not accurate, like, that screws you. A lot of the time, you're going to make errors even when you're not going for it, as we kind of saw with Tsitsipas, just a lot of rally errors. And so really the number one thing you want to do in a tiebreak is don't be the person to do that. Like, you can play safe, that's fine. Like, if the other player blasts winners, like, too good. But you don't want to give them the free points, and Djokovic never does that.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean, all those things considering, and then also, so, like, what are some of the areas that he's improved in throughout this clay court season? If you look at Monte Carlo and Madrid, obviously the forehand is the number one thing. I think he's really up the aggression on the forehand wing.
Yeah,
and he's taking control of rallies, control of them earlier. He's used his forehand as a finishing shot right now is just one of the best right now. It's like, it's miles better than what it was in Monte Carlo. And
right. I mean, people have said Djokovic has an underrated forehand for years, and I think underrated is probably not a strong enough word to describe it. Like, when it's at its best, it is absolutely one of the best forehands in the world. Like, as we saw, he took on Tsitsipas's forehand, and he came out on top in that. Like, it's not something that happens with many forehands. I mean, Alcaraz has done that, but I mean, who else has, really? Like, maybe Nadal has a slightly better forehand, but they don't really trade forehands when they play because he's a lefty. I mean, the things Djokovic does with that shot are incredible. Defensively, it's incredible. He can hit it anywhere he wants. Sometimes he has weird patches where it kind of, like, floats over the net, or he has that drunk forehand, like, once every couple of years or whatever. And sometimes you can attack it, but when it's at its best, it's almost perfect. It's a great shot. And yeah, he really brought that to Rome. Did a bunch of amazing things with it. More in the first set than the second set against Tsitsipas, I thought. But yeah, if he brings that forehand to Roland Garros, everyone's in trouble.
Yeah, sure. And then the way he can sort of counterattack with it, and he's so precise with it. He can rush you off of it. He can buy his time with it and then wait for the right ball and attack. It really improved a lot. And obviously the serve improved. I think the forehand improved. But the main thing that I know a lot of people are saying, his fitness has improved. And I think that was the case in the Alcaraz match for sure.
Yeah.
Because obviously he looked gassed when he lost 6 love to Rublev in the Belgrade final, and he looked gassed when he lost 6-1 to Davidovich Fokina in Monte Carlo. But I think he did all the hard work in Belgrade to get to the final. Coming back from a set down. I think that was really key for his fitness. And then obviously he won those 2 matches very comfortably in Madrid before the Alcaraz match, and then he didn't drop a set. But I'm curious to see what happens if someone really pushes him, deep into a 4th or a 5th. How does his fitness really hold up then?
Yeah, and that's what I want to see. Like, I want to see him play Alcaraz and for it to go 5 sets and for him to have to run a lot, because that's not something he's had to do.
Yeah.
I mean, the U.S. Open, he was pushed physically a lot, and Roland Garros last year with those back-to-back epics against Nadal and Tsitsipas, he had to do that. But besides that, it's been a while since he kind of got pushed to the brink physically. And so, yeah, I agree with you. That's something that where maybe players could make a little bit of ground against him. I guess like what I'm excited to see is if these top 4 favorites, Djokovic, Alcaraz, Nadal, Tsitsipas, have to play more than one of like those other favorites. I mean, because I was talking to you about this before we knew that Nadal had a foot thing, when he was still kind of everyone's favorite, and I was like, he is still everyone's favorite, but kind of imagine what happens if he has to play Djokovic in the quarters and then he has to play Alcaraz right after that. Like, do we really see that going his way? Like, that's brutal. And I feel like that's kind of the case for all of them if the people they play are fit. I mean, whoever wins Roland Garros is going to be gassed by the end. It's going to take a massive effort.
And obviously Nadal goes into Roland Garros this year the most unideal way he'd have asked for, right? I mean, coming back in Madrid, obviously he had that tussle with Goffin. His foot wasn't great after that, and then obviously the Alcaraz match was kind of weird, but you still thought, okay, that's a positive. He got to the quarters of Madrid, and then here, he it already wasn't a great sign when he played Isner, and he beat him 3-1, and then already he was asking to practice more, because I'm guessing he didn't quite have the. I mean, obviously Isner doesn't give you a whole lot of rhythm, and that's
right. Not a lot of baseline rallies, I'm guessing. But yeah, I mean, and the thing was that is sad about this is like in the first set against Shapovalov, he was amazing. He was great. He playing destroyed him. And I mean, and at the end, it was just like he lost 14 points in a row. Like he couldn't move. It hurts to watch, because if he can't move, his game completely falls apart. He's got a lot of power, but he's never been someone who can just stand in the same place and blast winners all over. Like he needs to move. And it sucks to watch, because it's almost as if like he was playing on one leg. He just can't do any of the things he wants. And so it doesn't seem that likely, but I just really hope that doesn't hit him in the middle of a match at Roland Garros, because like it's in his nature. He's not going to quit on a match like that when it's going in that direction, really, or like if he does, it kills him to do it. Like I hope that if the foot does flare up, like it's between matches or before the tournament starts or after the tournament ends, so that he can, if he does lose, it's like when he's physically fit. And I realize that's an unlikely thing to hope for, but regardless.
Yeah. I mean, and we clearly this week is really important. This week leading up to RG, seeing if he can practice kind of the right way, and those first 2 or 3 rounds, 4 rounds are going to be more important than ever. And in 2020 and 2021, he got, I'd say pretty friendly matches in the first 3 or 4 rounds. So he was able to work his way into it. I mean, it's a little different from when he lost to Schwartzman in Rome, obviously, because I mean, back then he was coming in 2020 is when he had come off that layoff. He didn't play the US Open. He didn't play for 7 months. And then he got a couple of matches in, and then didn't look great against Schwartzman. But the thing is, that time it was just purely about his confidence and his and just match rustiness, right? Whereas this time it's more actually dependent on the foot, and that foot is so unpredictable at this point in his career.
Yeah, and I think the thing that maybe some people don't understand is that if that foot isn't pain-free or really close to it, it's going to hinder him. Like a lot of people are saying, he needs to get through those first few rounds economically. But I don't know if that's going to help him, because at some point he's going to have another match like the one against Djokovic last year. Like there's no way he wins the title this year without dropping a set. He's going to have to play Alcaraz, or he's going to have to play Djokovic, or he's going to have to play Tsitsipas, and it's going to be a war. And so like if the foot isn't ready for a war, like he's in trouble. like with matches like that, you need to be physically fit, and if he's not, then he's not going to win them. So yeah, I don't know. It doesn't look good.
It doesn't look great. The positive news is that he's dealt with this his whole career, so I guess he kind of knows what has to be done. But then also, yeah, like it's incredibly unpredictable. It's not something that can just be, obviously you think, okay, injury, you rest, it'll get better, but this is not this is not one of those injuries.
Yeah,
for sure. Because also when he injured his rib and he was out for those 5-6 weeks, I think the inactivity is actually what made his foot flare back up again. I think he mentioned that during the pandemic in 2020 as well, is that's when he wasn't playing. That's when it was actually flaring up. But it's something he can sort of play through, and it's just about pain management. He has to manage it. It's almost like his luck ran out a little bit, because obviously he had that great start to the year. He won 20 matches in a row. He won the Australian Open, and this time it's happening on clay, where normally it's the other way around. So
and I mean, the only other year he won the Australian Open, he kind of ran into trouble on clay as well. Although it wasn't from his foot, it was just he played too much and completely ran himself into the ground. I guess it is that deal with the devil thing in Australia, right? Like he wins Australia and bad things happen to him. No, but in all seriousness, it's tough for him. My guess is that he'll play. He'll be physically compromised. He will drag himself to the fourth round or the quarterfinals anyway, because he's better than 90% of the field, even on one leg. And then he'll run into someone tougher and lose to them because he won't be ready for that kind of match.
Yeah. That seems likely. And obviously, Shapovalov, did well to win 2 matches, and then obviously take advantage of the situation. And he played a great third set. Didn't blink this time, and didn't try to go for any kind of ambitious shots. Just played the percentages a lot better.
First time.
Something we've criticized him. Sometimes we criticize him a lot for that, but also he did also change his tactics a little bit in the second set. I noticed he started serving a bit more a la Nadal 2016 from wider positions, and finding the angle, and sometimes he would use it to good effect. Hit a good serve at volley. His shot tolerance was a little bit better, and took advantage, and then lost it in 2 tight sets to Casper Ruud in the next round. But
and no shame in that.
No shame in that. Yeah.
So is it okay if I rant a little bit about something?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so something that really frustrates me is when you get a match like this, and the first thing the commentators say is like, I'll let this take nothing away from what Denis Shapovalov has achieved today. Because, an injury puts a cloud over a match, and they want to act as if the injury was not the defining factor in the match. But I hate it when people pretend like the injury wasn't a defining factor in the match, because Shapo did a lot of good things in that match. I thought, he won the second set in a really impressive way, because that was close and he pulled it out. But like in the third set, he literally won 14 points in a row because Nadal couldn't move. Like, that's not the stuff he's doing. That's because his opponent couldn't move his feet. And I wish that people would just accept that that is a thing that happens in tennis matches, and not pretend that it's something that doesn't exist, so that you can kind of react to a tennis match the way you want to react to a tennis match. And this goes for every time someone's injured. I'm trying to think of other examples, but I guess it's just frustrating because it's not an impossibility. It happens all the time when one player being injured is the reason a match panned out the way it did. I wish that people could admit that more often, because it sucks to talk about. I get it, but it's a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be accurate if you didn't mention it and you put it in context. I mean, definitely 3 of the last 4 times Nadal has lost, it's been mainly due to injury. Against Fritz in the Indian Wells final, it was the same kind of thing. Fritz played really well. He absolutely deserved to win. I think a lot of players would have folded in that situation in the second set, so he deserves a lot of credit for that. But Nadal absolutely was injured. And then same when he lost to Lloyd Harris in Washington, D.C. last year.
Oh, yeah.
Same in the fourth set of Roland Garros, although, I tend to give a lot more credit to Djokovic there, because obviously
that Nadal was different.
Nadal was in great shape for 3 sets.
Yeah.
But like most of the times he's lost. It's and unfortunately that's just the reality, and fans just refuse to accept that.
Yeah, I mean, and I do think even the Indian Wells match with Fritz was different, because that was one that got closer the longer it went, and that second set was a battle. And Nadal wasn't at his best, but that was an actual match. And this one, at the end, it's like Nadal is not winning any points. You have to look at that and recognize, this is a 10-time champion who lost 14 points in a row. Like, what do you think is going on here? Do you think there's a conspiracy where he's tanking so that people think he only wins, like he only loses when he's injured? Or do you think there's actually something wrong with the guy who has won this tournament 10 times and would probably be winning individual points if he were physically fit? And certain people insist on with like perpetuating this narrative that he plays up his injuries. I'm just like, this is someone who is one of the GOATs of the game. Like, do you really think he is using this to get an edge over like other players in the field? Like, please use your brain here. And I wish these people weren't loud enough that we had to talk about this, but they are. So,
yep. And then, of course, the whole notion of faking an injury, you know, when you're up a set and you're, I mean, we could go on about it all day, but
people freaking did that to Djokovic at the Australian Open in 2021. They're like, oh, he pulled the rug out from under Fritz. And I'm like, yeah, so what do you think? Like, your 8-time champion at this tournament tanked 2 sets so he could win in 5 instead of winning in straight sets. Like, freaking use your head. Like, they don't have to do this. Like, they're better than everyone. Can you not understand that? And like, yeah, they're gonna lose sometimes. But it drives me crazy.
Yeah. Well, and then
on that happy note, well, so you know, Dominic Thiem and Stan Wawrinka recently played more tennis matches, and I thought Wawrinka was pretty encouraging. He had a nice win over Riley Opelka from a set and a breakdown. There's a cool screenshot that you can take where Opelka was up 4-3 deuce serving in the second set, and he had like an overhand volley right on top of the net. And he didn't quite do enough with it, and Wawrinka hit him with a 2-shot pass and then won the match from there. And I think very few players will win the match against Opelka when they're down a set and a break and he has like an overhead on top of the net. So kudos to Stan for that. The match against Djokovic maybe wasn't as close as we'd have liked, but I think it was encouraging.
Yeah, it was good to see him win 2 matches against top 50 players and then go up against Djokovic, and Djokovic playing really well obviously made that a lot tougher, and it was going to be kind of entirely predictable that the match wasn't going to be as close, but we really wanted to see that match again because obviously that rivalry is legendary, especially in the majors.
It's one of the weirdest rivalries of all time. Like, it's because you had these 5-set battles that they've had, but in best of 3 it has never been remotely competitive. It's like a tennis god possesses Stan's body whenever they go up against each other in a major, and whenever they play in best of 3 that god goes and possesses someone else. It's been strange ever since like 2013, but it's still nice to see them play again.
Yeah, it was nice to see. And hopefully he'll get to play Roland Garros, and maybe best of 5 will help him. He pulled out of Geneva this week, and he didn't play in between Monte Carlo and Rome as well. So I'm guessing, obviously fatigue was a factor there.
Yeah.
By the time he got to the Djokovic match, and certainly he's 37 now, so it's time is very limited. But
it's a bit of a shame as well, because that guy was a machine, like fitness wise, in his prime. I mean, as recently as 2019, do you remember that amazing match he had against Tsitsipas in the 4th round of Roland Garros? It was like 5 hours and 7 minutes, I think. And then 2 days later, he comes back and plays Federer in a really close, long, tight 4-setter. He was up a break in the 3rd set in. I mean, a lot of players will lose that 3-3, and Wawrinka made it a battle. And he can't really do that anymore, which is a shame because it was really cool. But yeah, still nice to see Stan back. And, right back into talking about something depressing. Dominic Thiem, it has been a rough comeback.
It's been extremely, extremely rough. We've seen him, we've seen flashes of his brilliance. We've seen, moments of magic. We've seen him save match points with winners. We've seen him hit the backhand down the line. We've seen him move better. We've seen him try different things, but it just hasn't come together for him. Just hasn't come together. And he's still missing a ton on the forehand, still doubting himself a lot on that shot. He's still, not converting his break point chances. His opponents are peaking and playing some of the best tennis because they know that he's there for the taking.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that teams level is really not there. Like when your opponent doesn't show up, it makes it easier to play your best tennis. And the forehand is worrying because that was Thiem's thing. He would unload on every single forehand and you couldn't handle it. It was way too fast, way too heavy, and he could hit it past you even in the biggest moments. And now it's like the speed and the weight on that shot is just not even close to what it used to be. And it's not something that is improving match to match. It's not something that's really gone away. So I have no idea. I'm just guessing here, but like, is that ever something that you think is going to come back?
I think it will come back. It's just going to take a lot longer than we're expecting, and it's going to require him to play down and level. Maybe go back to the challengers. Maybe, I don't really know at this point. I think he's going to be playing the French Open, but so we'll see if he can get a match in. Like it's just he's in a tough spot right now because even in challengers he's going to have to face some of the best players on clay who are going to make him work extremely hard. I mean, some of the last few players that he's played aren't exactly top caliber players, but they're capable of playing really well on a given day, and he's gonna have that. It's kind of a chicken and egg situation. Like you need more matches, but you got to win more matches to get the matches. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, he's just gotta like he's not won a match. I think he's on a 9-match losing streak, and then if you combine the challenger, like it's 10 and over a year. It's a lot of time away from the game, and that wrist is really gonna mess things up, right? I mean, I think he's already made technical changes to his forehand, and it just doesn't look the same anymore.
Yeah. Maybe he'll get Medvedev in the first round of Roland Garros, and that'll like ignite something in him, and he'll start peaking again, like at the 2020 U.S. Open. But
can you imagine winner of that will play Wawrinka in the second round or something crazy? Like it'll just be the trio of.
There's going to be a weird ass part of the draw like that, like Murray and Wawrinka playing in the first round in 2020 last year. I forget which, but that was weird.
2020.
But yeah, in all seriousness, like Thiem, I hope. I mean, his attitude has been fantastic. Like, I don't know if you've seen his social media posts, but they're like relentlessly optimistic. It's kind of amazing. Like he knows what he wants and he wants to be back. And I respect the heck out of that. So I wish him better luck with this because it's been tough.
Yeah, it's been tough. I wish him best of luck as well. But yeah, I have seen his social media posts, and he does do threads, and he gives his analysis after every match. It's great.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, I wanted to touch a little bit on the Rome final, obviously, because Tsitsipas has been putting together consistent weeks now on the clay. I mean, winning Monte Carlo, quarterfinals of Barcelona, loses to Alcaraz in 3. Gets to the Madrid semis. Okay, loses to Zverev. Not a bad loss. He's beaten him twice already this clay season. Where in the tournaments that, let's be honest, matter more. And then in Rome, I thought it was impressive that he got to the final because he could have lost in the first round against Dimitrov, and he made that match so complicated.
Yeah, geez, I completely forgot about that match.
Was up a set in a break, and then had to save 2 match points. And on one of the match points, he hit a second serve. And it was a kick second serve, and he dared to serve and volley on it, and Dimitrov missed the return. And then on the other one, he hit this incredible inside out forehand winner, and a clutch first serve. So he somehow got through that match, and then kept dropping sets. Dropped his first set to Khachanov, found a way, came back there, and then played a really tight first set against Sinner, where the Italian crowd really got into it, and that was a close first set. And then he pulled away in the second, and then he came back from a set down against Zverev, and he got his revenge from Madrid. And I thought played a very smart third set in that match where he just limited the unforced errors. He knew that Zverev was going to play more aggressive than he needed to be, and he just relied on his defense, and he relied on his he just relied on his superior clay court tennis, to be honest. And then he came up against Djokovic, and okay, the first set is a bagel, and obviously we have to say Djokovic was playing incredible in the first set. I mean, his forehand return was dialed in. He was reading Tsitsipas' serve. Tsitsipas wasn't making enough first serves, and he definitely looked a bit jaded. Obviously, he'd had a tougher route to the final in terms of sets dropped, and physically, I don't think he was at his best. But then, came the game where I think it changed. What made that set 6-love is he was serving at love 2, and he was 40-15 up on his serve.
Yeah. they
He
talked
lost
about this
serve
on
from there.
3, and Djokovic hit like 2 insane winners past him when he didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah. One was a counterattack forehand cross court winner, and
Right.
Tsitsipas had the first ball forehand right where he wanted it, and Djokovic read it like a book.
Yeah.
And then the other was a really good forehand approach that would have won the point against most players, and then Djokovic hits that incredible cross court backhand passing shot winner.
Right.
And then I don't know if they touched on this on 3, but he had another game point after that, and this is where Djokovic for his forehand just does so much damage again, and he's Tsitsipas is so comfortable hitting backhands from the cross court, from the ad side, because he doesn't have to do that much. It doesn't really challenge his defense. It doesn't expose his weakness because he has plenty of time, like he would on clay. So he can. But what Djokovic does is he either has 2 options now. He can either hit his backhand down the line and go hard at the Tsitsipas forehand and then get the shot that he wants and make Tsitsipas defend on his backhand, or he can hit an inside-in forehand. And he chose to hit an inside-in forehand and just take control of the rally, and then he hit another winner. And then I think pretty much after that, Tsitsipas just totally lost belief, and that set was over fast.
Yeah, and you can't blame him, because when Djokovic is in that mode, there's nothing anyone in the world can do. I haven't known what to make of Tsitsipas's clay season, because I think the results have been fantastic. At the same time, I don't feel like he's ever been at his best. And I think on the one hand,
I would agree with that.
It speaks so well of him that he's able to have these fantastic results without being at his best. Like in the Monte Carlo final, for instance, I thought he gave Davidovich Fokina way more chances than I expected him to, and he still won straight. Like, that's awesome. And then, but besides that, I mean, I think even in Rome, like he made the final. It's a personal best for him, but I never really saw a match where I was like, man, Tsitsipas is on the, like, he's playing really well. And so I'm kind of confused about what to expect from him going into Roland Garros. Like, I don't see him losing to anyone below him. I think he's way too good on clay for that at this point. I see him going deep for sure, but I'm also not really expecting him to beat Alcaraz or Djokovic or Nadal if he's fit. It's weird. I feel like he's almost in a, purgatory is the wrong word because it's a much more positive place than that, but I feel like he's almost in limbo between the very best players in the world and that second tier of players. Like, I think he's made that jump for a little bit, and he's been in the second tier for a little bit, and now he's kind of in between. So I'm excited to see what he does at Roland Garros, but I also think there's a lot of pressure because with him being a set away from the title last year, if he doesn't win this year, by definition, it's a step backwards. And that's a really tough position to be in with, Alcaraz and 2 of the GOATs in the same draw as you. So whatever happens, I hope he can play his best, because I think he'll have fewer regrets that way.
Yeah, I like what you said about him not being in his best, but still finding a way to come through. And then, I kind of agree about his French Open. I have him as the 4th favorite right now because I don't feel good about his chances when he comes up against either of those 3. I mean, he's now lost the last 5 or last 6 actually against Djokovic, and last 5 on clay. And okay, they've been close. 3 of those have been close. This one wasn't as close, but and then and then against Nadal he's down in the hip. It's like 2-7, and he had that match point in Barcelona. But who really knows? I mean, I think he's kind of. I'd still put him in tier 1, but he's the 4th favorite for me, like behind Rafa. At this point, even though he's had a really consistent clay season.
In a way, I like his chances against Djokovic better than I do against Alcaraz. I think if he plays Djokovic again, it's going to be closer, because I think he'll play better. And if Djokovic reproduces that God mode forehand, especially over 5 sets, I'm going to be pretty shocked. I think Alcaraz is more of a matchup issue. Like, he might never have beaten Djokovic on clay, but last year you have that Rome quarterfinal, which by all rights he should have won. He had all kinds of chances. And then you have that French Open final, which, last 3 sets weren't that close, but again, he had chances. He was up 2 sets. And against Alcaraz, I don't know if he's ever really been in position to win for a little while now. That US Open match, maybe. But it feels like those matches are getting less close rather than closer. And I feel like this last one against Djokovic was almost an anomaly, because I think Djokovic played uncommonly well. Like, I would be surprised if that happens again. So
eventually I knew his level was going to come down, especially at the start of the second, and that's when Tsitsipas broken. I got to give him some credit, because especially in the second set, he started serving way better. His first serve percentage went way up.
And direction-wise as well, avoiding the forehand.
Yeah, avoiding the forehand. And obviously that kick serve was very effective against Djokovic, as Alcaraz showed in Madrid with the high
Alcaraz,
altitude.
the tactical master at 19.
But I mean, Tsitsipas recognized that quick, and then he got off to a 4-1 lead, and then he had a break point for 5-1, and and Djokovic comes up with an incredible forehand winner and gets out of that game, and then he holds for 5-2, and then he was 2 points away from breaking and starting the third set serving first. But then comes the game at 5-3, and this is where it's a little bit of both, because I feel like Djokovic raised his level again. He came up with a forehand return winner on one of the points. And then Tsitsipas went for this backhand drop shot, and he did so well to get back into neutral. And it's almost like he picked the wrong shot twice. He went for a backhand down the line off the first ball, missed it. Went for missed a serve +1 in that game, and then missed a backhand drop shot where he really didn't need to go for that shot at all. And then Djokovic obviously was locked in and not making any errors. And then he was sort of back on serve, and then you get to the tiebreak. And it was a kind of a weird tiebreak because Djokovic goes up 5-2, and then it gets back to 5-all. And I'm just like, neither player is playing well at all. And Djokovic is tight as a drum. He's serving like 75-mile-per-hour second serves.
Right.
And Tsitsipas is fighting like he always does, but still not really still missing too much and making too many errors, especially off the backhand. He made 3 unforced errors in that tiebreak. Djokovic only made 1 unforced error in the entire tiebreak.
And I mean, that's the difference, 2 points.
Yeah, and that was the difference.
I don't think Tsitsipas played well in that final. I mean, I think I was really impressed with what he did in the second set, but I think early on in the second set, he was serving at like 80%. And that is amazing, but it's never going to be sustainable. So the fact that the set ended up being close didn't surprise me. And I mean, in the tiebreak, it was just, there was one point where Djokovic absolutely floated in a second serve and hit an average return. And then later he like shanked a ball in the rally. And after Djokovic was kind of laughing to himself, and like, I thought it was because of the shank, but other people said it was because of like him getting away with that second serve. And I was like, yeah, could have been either one. It was just not a pretty point. And in a way, this makes me optimistic because Tsitsipas can play so much better than that, and he still almost won that second set. So, like, I think he remains super dangerous. But I don't know if he's played his best tennis in a while, and like I don't know if that's cause for concern necessarily, but I don't know. He's in a bit of a strange place at the moment.
Yeah. We'll see, because he was a set away from the title last year, and obviously he can play so much better than he showed in Rome, and so it's going to depend a lot on the draw. We'll have to see. I mean, thank goodness we're not going to see another Zverev Tsitsipas. I'm so tired of that match.
Oh God,
it's never good quality, and it's always I'm tired of it. We've seen it 3 times now.
Right. I mean, Alcaraz Tsitsipas is infinitely more entertaining, and those matches are all going the same way. Like it's a better rivalry, even though it's less of a rivalry. The Roland Garros draw is going to tell us a lot on the ATP side. There are a lot of permutations that could mean a lot of different things.
Sure.
So I mean,
are those your 5 favorites in order? For me, it's Djokovic, Alcaraz, Nadal, Tsitsipas, and then very distant 5th is Zverev. But I feel like Sinner or Ruud. I mean, Ruud less so. Ruud has disappointed me this clay season. But someone could displace Zverev in 5th. Schwartzman even, if he starts playing well. But Schwartzman last 2 Roland Garros has been very impressive.
He is. His post prime, or like maybe this is his prime now. The stuff he's done recently is amazing. Like that win over Nadal in Rome in 2020, that was special. He's taking the ball so early, but I'm excited. I'll tell you what I want to see is a rematch between Tsitsipas and Medvedev. I feel like we are owed a sequel of that just because that was so much fun. And Tsitsipas will destroy him again if it happens, but like we'll get another moment like that underhand serve.
Yeah. So Medvedev has to pretty much make the semis for that to happen.
Well, so Medvedev's 2 and Tsitsipas is 4.
4, right? Okay,
so it can't happen before the semis. Yeah. Shame. If it were 2 and 5, it could be in the quarters. I feel like tennis maybe needs to do that 1-8, 2-7 thing, because like the fact that you can get 2 and 9 or 2 and 8 in the quarterfinals, and you can get 1 and 5. I don't like that. It's
always really random. Like it could be 4-5, it could be 3-6, it could be 3-7. There's too many permutations.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back. Do you remember the 2020 Australian Open? In the quarters, Nadal was 1, and he had to play Thiem, who was 5th. And Thiem is red hot and takes him out. And Djokovic was 2, and I don't even remember who he had in the quarters.
I think it was Raonic.
Yeah, I mean that's not even comparable. Like,
yeah,
and obviously luck probably evens out for everyone in the end because draws are random. They are not fixed to everyone listening to this. But I feel like a little more reward for the top seeds would be nice.
Yeah, that would be I definitely want to see balance. I don't want to see those 4 favorites in the same half. So
oh god, what a nightmare that would be. I mean, I think last year we're lucky it worked out the way it did with Djokovic and Nadal playing that great semifinal and Djokovic somehow still having gas for the final. But like, imagine if that had worked out differently, or like if Federer were in a place where like he could have been competitive enough to be a factor, and then the people on that half of the draw really would have killed each other. And oh man, yeah, I just don't want it to be like. I was scared that would happen in Madrid, that Zverev was going to beat Alcaraz after Alcaraz cleared out Djokovic and Nadal, and by comparison, Zverev kind of got to waltz to the final. It's like, you can't control who you play, but you never want it to work out like that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just real quickly before we wrap this up, like who are some of the other dark horses for you for Roland Garros? Like I guess by that I mean players who are like unseeded.
Sure. I don't think there are many. I think the top players are a lot better than everyone else, even the ones who are seeded. People who are unseeded, I'm having trouble of thinking of anyone, to be honest. Is there anyone on your mind?
They're not really overwhelming threats, but like, maybe like Lorenzo Musetti could get to the 4th round or something.
Yeah,
maybe
he could do something.
Maybe Fognini if he's not, if he's like actually focused, which is a very big if.
I liked the way he played against Thiem. That was an intense match. It felt like a match between top 10, top 20 players for patches. I don't know if he'll keep his head for longer than 5 minutes though. Also,
maybe some of the others who are good in 250s, like Baez or Rune.
I'm excited to see how Baez does. I think I like his upside on clay. Like even in terms of top 10 players who aren't favorites. Is there anyone who you think could pull a huge upset? Because I mean, I think Felix is inconsistent on clay. Ruud, I would generally say yes, but he's had an awful clay season. I think Sinner is still not ready to take that next step. Like I think he's like 2 steps behind where Tsitsipas is now.
The key thing for Sinner is like just he hasn't had a big win yet. He's like the best player he's beaten by ranking is Andrei Rublev. A match on slow clay that you'd expect him to win. Yeah. So, he's not, and I think he's like 0-12 against top 5 players.
Yeah.
Which is a really damning stat, actually.
For sure. His biggest thing is like he doesn't have, right now at least, he doesn't have the level to win a major. Like he doesn't have that gear that the other people have.
So I'm struggling to think of anyone. Like really, I mean, Shapovalov, like, not high on him at all.
He's too inconsistent.
Hurkacz is too reliant on his serve. Dimitrov, is inconsistent.
To be honest, I like Dimitrov better than most of the names we've said, and I think Hurkacz, the lack of a forehand, is going to kill him on clay as well. Like his matches are going to be slogs even when he wins them. What about Rublev? Like, what do you think he can do?
I think at best he can get to a quarters again, which is actually it's been a long time. I mean, the last time he made the quarters was Australian Open 2021. Mm-hmm. And I mean, last year he lost to Struff, I think, in the 1st round. So he can actually.
Struff isn't playing, so maybe that's a good omen for him.
Yeah. So I think he can definitely get to the quarters if he, if he doesn't have like a really dangerous unseeded player.
Yeah,
but he still has those matchup issues against a lot of the top players. So
against all of them, really. But I don't know. I still kind of think what he did to Djokovic in the Belgrade final. Like I know Djokovic gassed out, but that second set was insane. Even though Djokovic won it, Rublev pushed him to do a bunch of things that I didn't know Rublev could push people to do. So I hope that Rublev gets another match like that where he gets to play Djokovic or Tsitsipas or Nadal or Alcaraz, because he won't win that match, but he'll get another chance to kind of like improve. And I think he needs that.
Yeah, I mean, he did well in Belgrade and he did well in Madrid. He could have won that match against Tsitsipas. That was quite 50-50.
That's right. Yeah, he had break points in the last game, didn't he?
Yeah,
that was a good match. Yeah,
mid quarters. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. He hasn't been that good. He lost to Krajinovic in Rome, I think, in the first round, and then he lost to Sinner in Monte Carlo. So it's like he's probably
it feels expected for Rublev on balance, that kind of clay season.
Yeah, and then let's see if Felix can finally win a match at Roland Garros, because he's done well in this clay season since Monte Carlo. He's gotten to 3/4. So
yeah, Felix has had a bizarre year. Like the things he did in Australia and right after Australia with that tournament win and making the final, and then this match against Djokovic, all of that's amazing. But everything else this year has been crap. Like he's either been outstanding or he's been terrible. So I hope that he's closer to the former Roland Garros, because him losing in the first round again would bum me out. He's way too good to still be doing that. Yeah.
Hopefully he'll have a high enough base level that he can finally win a match.
Yeah. Okay. So predictions. ATP and WTA. I think
for the title without having the draw.
Yeah, for the title.
Okay. Well, for the WTA, I'm going to be boring and go Iga.
Yeah, I mean that's not even boring at this point. That's just deserved status for the stuff she's been doing.
Yeah, so she'll tie Venus Williams for the longest match win streak since 2000 at 35. 6 tournaments in a row.
That would be nuts. I mean, she deserves it. Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, and then on the men's, it depends so much on the draw, but it's going to be between Djokovic and Alcaraz and Nadal for me. So it's I mean, Nadal with his foot not being a problem, but I don't even want to predict. I think if you put me on the spot, I'm just gonna go with Djokovic.
Okay. Yeah.
Like if you, go with that.
So I'm going with Swiatek as well, just because I can't imagine a scenario where she loses. Second favorite Jabeur. After that, I have absolutely no idea. On the men's side, I do want to go different. So I'm gonna say Alcaraz, because I can't get past how weird it is in my head. Djokovic winning Roland Garros 2 years in a row. I like that universe seems too strange to me. So yeah, I'll say Alcaraz wins. The kid destroys everyone and outlasts Djokovic in a 4.5 hour match. Drop shot winner on match point.
I can already see it happening.
But yeah, I mean, I think we're set for really good tournaments, because I think I mean, if Swiatek wins, that's unquestionably a success, right? She's been having outstanding form. This would be like a more than deserved kind of reward for everything she's done. And I think she's been so dominant that like it still allows for plenty of other like side storylines. It's like, while Iga beat whoever 6-0, 6-0, like you had this storyline and that storyline, and plenty of it will be about her as well. And on the men's side, we'll be able to track Nadal's fitness, see how Tsitsipas is playing, see how Carlos and Djokovic are playing, and yeah, I think the problem with the men's side is, besides those top 4 favorites,
can't really see anyone else.
It's going to be really uninteresting. Like there is not an Anisimova type dark horse like in the entire draw. I mean, there are threats to make 3rd or 4th rounds. There are not threats to make semifinals and finals.
Yeah, and we go back to best of 5, and we go back to
again. Yeah, so much of it is that. Like, I mean, can you imagine if Swiatek were getting to play best of 5 on the WTA side? Like, she would go from being an overwhelming favorite to like, if you don't pick her as the favorite, there is something seriously wrong with you. Like, that would, yeah.
You know how many finals I wish were best of 5 on the WTA, or just second weeks in general, or at least just whole tournaments in general. I mean,
the best way to do this, I think, is best of 3 on both sides first week, best of 5 for both sides second week, like 4th rounds to finals, and then like that way it's like risk of upset at the beginning, stuff goes quickly, and then you have all the epics and classics in the second week.
Yep.
But tennis is tennis. They won't
Tennis
figure
is
things
tennis.
out. They'll do something stupid, and we'll probably lose best of 5 forever. So
We'll still enjoy it no matter what.
yeah, that's true. Although,
but yeah, Carlos, this is his 6th main draw of a major, and Rafa, when he won the 2005 French Open, was indeed his 6th main draw. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, really quickly, I do think it's kind of interesting because I feel like I don't know if Carlos is playing significantly worse than Nadal did in 2005, but I feel like he's less of a favorite to win the tournament because the competition is tougher than it was in 2005. Like, I think in 2005, yeah, you had Federer, who was playing by far the best tennis in the world, but he was the only one. Now you have Djokovic and you have Nadal and you have Tsitsipas, and maybe none of those guys are playing as well right now as Federer did in 2005, but there are more of them. So I think that makes it tougher.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, you can follow us all at Tennis and Bagels. You can follow Owen at Tennis Nation, and you can follow me at 1v2k. You can check out Popcorn Tennis, which is a great blog.
Thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, if you want to mention us on Twitter, I ticked off a lot of people yesterday by saying Djokovic had a better career on clay than Bjorn Borg. So I'm ready for it. Give me all your arguments.
Yep. And as always, there'll be plenty more, and we'll be here and we'll cover it all. So
yep.
Stay tuned, and thanks for listening, and see you later.